friends from civil society and the private sector, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elisa Edelman. I'm the Health Office Deputy Director from the United States Agency for International Development. It's a great honor to be here today. It's with great excitement that we gather for the official release of the 2022 Census of Population and Housing Preliminary Findings. After navigating several delays in conducting the census, including multiple serious waves of the COVID-19 pandemic, the census is now successfully complete. This is no small achievement, and everyone involved should be proud. The census is critical to inform where Zambia is going as a nation. It helps communities determine where to build essential services, like schools and hospitals. It helps the government decide how to distribute funds and assistance to states and localities. And it provides key population data that helps guide development work. For those of us who work in the field of health, this information is crucial. Health program planning relies heavily on having accurate population size counts disaggregated by sex, geographical distribution, and other parameters. This data directly benefits and improves the targeting of health interventions so they reach the right people in the right places. USAID was thrilled to be able to play our small part in supporting this endeavor through technical support for the field work. Our technical assistance covered several areas, including pre-census geographic data digitalization and storage, geographic information systems, and field mapping operations to ensure everyone is counted. Our support does not end here. USAID will continue supporting the census to the final published report, as well as through implementation of change as a result of the data. I commend the entire Zamstat team who implemented this important exercise, from the data collectors, the modelers, geographers, mappers, demographers, IT specialists, statisticians, data analysts, planners, admin assistants, and more. A special thanks goes to all the line ministries and other Zambian government departments that provided their staff and resources during this exercise. Everyone involved in the census is helping to ensure a bright future for all Zambians. I thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, we'll call upon the representative from UNECA to come and deliver the remarks, please. I understand the representative from UNECA is yet to come, therefore we'll proceed to the representative from the UNFPA to come and deliver the remarks, please. Let's encourage her.
Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwani, Member of Parliament, Minister of Finance and National Planning, Mr. Kangwa, Secretary to Cabinet, Deputy Secretary to Cabinet, Mr. Siazongo Siakalenga, Zamstats Board Chairperson, Mr. Charles Mpundu, Mr. Mlenga Msepa, Interim Statistician General, Permanent Secretaries present, members of the UN country team, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, heads of mission representatives, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Joy Masheke. I'm currently officer in charge of UNFPA, representing the representative, Madam Gift Malunga, and it is our honor on behalf of UNFPA to be part of this dissemination meeting for the 2022 Census of Population and Housing, whose main enumeration was conducted between 18th August 2022 and 14th September 2022. Allow me to congratulate the government of the Republic of Zambia under the stewardship of the Zambia Statistics Agency for this great milestone. As you may be aware, the preparations of the 2022 census started as far back as 2017, and over $50 million has been spent on this exercise from all partners, including government. As UNFPA, I'm pleased to report that we spent over $4 million to this exercise, as we recognize that investing in conducting a census generates critical data that aids in planning and implementation for national development projects, such as the 8th National Development Plan, and also aids in updating statistical information on demographics, economics, and social characteristics of the population, including knowing where the vulnerable populations are. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the unique advantage of conducting a census is that it represents the entire national statistical universe, down to the smallest geographic and administrative area, and uniquely for Zambia, also now provides geo-referenced data for all respondents who participated. The results to be disseminated today, therefore, allows for evidence-based decision-making in a variety of settings, including the design and monitoring of policies and programs across sectors based on actual population needs. Since our inception, one of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception, one of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception, one of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception, one of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception, one of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census capacity to collect, our inception. One of UNFPA's core mandates has been to strengthen national census
Directors of the Zambia Statistics Agency, Zamstats, is pleased that the 2022 census of population and housing has come to a successful conclusion. You may recall that the census exercise was originally scheduled to have taken place in 2020, but for various reasons that included the lack of resources, particularly funding, this did not happen and had to be deferred initially to 2021 and then on to 2022. The dissemination of the 2022 census results that we are all witnessing today is thus an important milestone for the agency, having overcome the challenges that were experienced in the previous years. Since the induction of the first Zamstats Board of Directors in May of 2021, which I am privileged and honored to chair, the census of population and housing has been the strategic focus area, and the board provided strategic policy direction to ensure the successful implementation of the 2022 census in accordance with the Statistics Act number 13 of 2018 of the laws of Zambia. Achieving our legal and statistical obligations to guarantee provision of quality data that are relevant, timely, and accurate is very critical for the agency. And today's event is a clear demonstration of our commitment to meeting our obligations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, an undertaking such as the exercise we've gone through calls for a lot of support and collaboration at various levels. In this regard, the board is grateful to the government of the Republic of Zambia, the cooperating partners, and the private sector for the support provided to ensure the successful implementation of the first e-census for Zambia. Honorable Minister, let me extend a special thanks to you personally and your team at the ministry for the unwavering and timely support that you rendered to the agency. We are grateful for that support. I would also like to thank the ISG, management and staff for their commitment and successful delivery of this important milestone. Let me also thank the main enumerators and coordinators that sometimes had to endure some hardships to ensure the job was done and done properly, and the many Zambians and others that participated in the census exercise. Please bear with us if you found the questionnaires a little bit too long and sometimes appearing to be intrusive. We needed to get the information, the right information that would ease planning and future decision-making based on evidence on the ground. Honorable Minister, I'm pleased that through the collaborative effort, we can finally provide the most critical resource for the nation, which will ensure will and serve as the benchmark for official statistics. I thank you, God bless you all, and wishing you a Merry Christmas and prosperous New Year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, as we prepare to listen to the DSC and thereafter the Honorable Minister, may I invite a performance group, Chota, to come and do one performance, and thereafter we'll proceed to the statement by the Deputy Secretary to the Cabinet, who thereafter will call upon the Honorable Minister to give us a keynote address. When that has happened, we'll go to the sharing of the results by the Interim Statistician General. Performance, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Perhaps I could be allowed to just do a short consultations before we proceed. May I call upon Mr. Siazongo Siakalenge, Deputy Secretary to Cabinet, to call upon the Honorable Minister and perhaps just indicate to us the role that the committee which he was heading played in the whole process. Mr. Siakalenge, sir, thank you. Let's encourage him.
Good morning to you. Let me start by recognizing the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Musogotwani. I would like to recognize the presence of the chairperson of Zamstats, Mr. Mpundu. Let me also recognize my colleagues, the various permanent secretaries that are present this morning. Let me recognize the presence of UNFPA representative who delivered a statement this morning, the presence of UNECA representative who equally presented a statement this morning to us, and the representative of USAID. Let me recognize the presence of the interim statistician general, who had a lot of work to do from the time that work started to do the national census. And of course, the members of staff in his office, at the Ministry of Finance, and the various committees that worked to prepare for the national census. I was the chairperson of the National Steering Committee, and perhaps I could indicate that it was not easy as we were going on, because we had a lot of teething problems. And it is interesting to note that today we are sitting here to receive the report that was prepared after carrying out the national census. And perhaps without taking too much time, allow me at this point in time to call upon the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Honorable Dr. Stumbeko Musogotwani, who is the guest of honor, who is going to deliver his keynote address this morning. Honorable Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, please take seats. Thank you very much, Mr. Siakalenge. the Deputy Secretary to the Cabinet for Economic and Finance. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I do recognize all the dignitaries who are here today, including the Deputy Secretary to the Cabinet, the Chairman of the Board of the Statistical Agencies. I don't know if there are any members of Parliament here. I also want to recognize the presence of the representative for the UNFPA, USAID, who were here earlier on, the senior government officials, and the head of the Statistical Agency, Mr. Msepa, and all your senior management staff who are here today. As we heard, this country conducted the 6th census, so census number 6 of population and housing between the 18th of August and 14th of September this year. On top of that, a 7-day mop-up was undertaken from 15th to the 21st of September 2022 for quality assurance and to ensure that all persons reporting not being counted were eventually enumerated, especially in the hard to enumerate and high density areas. The theme for the 2022 e-census was Everyone Counts. This was in recognition of the importance of enumerating every household and institution in order to ensure inclusive planning and sustained national development. Let me inform you that the country has maintained its proud record of consistently conducting a population census since 1969, which is also in line with the international statistical standards for undertaking census of population. You may be aware that this is the first time that our country has conducted an electronic census or e-census through the use of tablets. This is a notable improvement in our statistical practices and a major departure from the last 5 censuses, which were paper-based. Further, in order to improve the census coverage, satellite technology was used to create electronic maps for use by more than 40,000 census field staff. I would like to inform the nation that despite some challenges faced at the commencement of the exercise, particularly in the urban areas, the 2022 census was successfully undertaken as it achieved universal coverage. This means that data collection was conducted in all the 38,570 enumeration areas countrywide. I commend the Zambia Statistics Agency for adopting digital technology. This is also in line with the 7th Statistical Commission recommendation for countries to adopt digital solutions and new technologies in order to increase the reliability and accessibility of census products and other statistics in a cost-effective manner. The census of population and housing is the benchmark for key national indicators and statistics that, if well used, could support the socio-economic transformation of our country. For the public sector, census information is critical to sound decision-making in development planning, resource allocation, and policy formulation. This data will be particularly important in assisting government allocate resources in an appropriate manner, such as CDF. As you know, CDF today is distributed equally to every constituency, and it is silent to the realities of the population densities or the population numbers in each of the constituencies. With this data, now we can engage into meaningful discussion and debate as to whether that approach is sound or not. Of course, this data, as we heard from previous speakers, is also important in terms of providing social services, because how can you tell where to build a school? How can you tell where to build a clinic, to put water, unless you have information that tells you how many people live in each particular area? If you do that, it is guesswork. But with the census data, it becomes possible to make more rational decisions on those allocation processes. For the private sector, census data is key for investment planning, including service and product development, which ultimately impacts on growth and job creation at regional and international levels. Indeed, if you are going to decide to set up a shop or some other business, one of the things that you are interested to know is the market. Do I have sufficient market in this area? Therefore, what kind of business can I take there? What kind of services can I take there? That is only possible when you have data. So this data is also very much important for the private sector. Government, therefore, attaches a lot of importance to the census and provided adequate resources to ensure its successful implementation. I'm delighted that this morning, the 2022 Census Preliminary Report will be disseminated to the wider public. So we are all curious to know how many we are in this country, how many women are there, how many young people, old people. These are all the things that are contained in the census, all those questions that we were asked to answer. The agency has captured all those. With time, we shall be able to know a lot of things about ourselves. Key indicators of this preliminary report, and I emphasize the point, only the key indicators of this preliminary report will be presented, as well as other reports to be published, which will come later. However, I also want to say that it will be possible to access some of this data through a mobile application on our phones called the Census Executive Monitor. The Census Executive Monitor. And these indicators can be viewed as tables and charts. So we'll be able to see summaries of those on our phones. Ladies and gentlemen, the success of the 2022 census would not have been possible without the support of several stakeholders, which include cooperating partners, namely the UN family, that is UNFPA, UNICEF, UNECA, and outside the UN family, the US, that is the United States Census Bureau, and the World Bank. For the first time, the private sector also played an instrumental role in supporting the census publicity activities. These private sector actors included the New Horizon printers, ProPrint Limited, EcoBank Zambia Limited, Zanaco, and Choppies Supermarket. Government is extremely grateful for the support rendered by the private sector to this exercise. Finally, I want to thank the Interim Statistical Agency, Ms. UNFPA, and the management team, and all the census field staff who worked diligently for long hours to ensure that everyone is counted. As we heard, it was not an easy thing because for some people, they resisted being enumerated for various reasons. Some politics, some superstition, some because maybe they are associated in one way or another to illegal activities. So being enumerated, it was like being investigated. So there were so many challenges that we are faced. And also, I want to state that in previous censuses, a lot of not enough attention was paid to how to conduct a census efficiently. So a lot of resources were sometimes spent, sometimes not justifiably. But with the adoption of the electronic system now, I think that we must commend the Statistical Agency for great improvement in the manner public resources have been expended to get to the results that we are seeing today. So, Mr. Msepa and your colleagues, I want to thank you for that. We were worried that this thing was going to run over the budget, but you have been within budget, and that is something to commend you for. I also want to thank the people of Zambia for participating in the 2022 e-Census of Population and Housing. I also want to take opportunity to all those households participating in the ongoing 2022 post-enumeration survey. In other words, there's something that is going on. I presume this is on a sample basis, and this is just to check on these things like the standards and other issues where we can learn from so that the next census will even be better. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe these are the remarks that I had to render, and I'm now curious, just like every one of you here, to know how many people are in this country. Is it 100 million? Is it 50 million? Is it 10 million? Or indeed, is it something like 3 million? When we who were there in 1969 were being counted, I think we're definitely less than 4 million. And Lusaka was a very open place. Now you see even human beings in places where we never imagined there were people. So I can only assume that with all these indicators, the Zambians have been busy increasing their numbers. I thank you so much.
So thank you, Honorable Minister. Let's give him another generous round of applause. Thank you. At this point in time, I call upon the Interim Statistician General, Mr. Mlenga Msepa, to deliver his presentation. Thank you. May we keep quiet there, please?
Honorable Minister, Deputy Secretary to the Cabinet for Finance and Economic Development, PS Dennis Chinsenda, EMF Chairperson, Mr. Charles Mpundu, Zamstats Board, Smart Zambia Institute Coordinator, Permanent Secretaries present, the cooperating partners, the board members, and let me just say good morning. I'll ride on the protocols that I think were given. Before we actually go to the numbers, I think we would like to demonstrate a few things so that there is an appreciation of what is an e-census. Basically, it's the first time that Zambia has conducted this. We are a few of us in Africa. It was a complete change from paper-based census to now the use of tablets and real-time transmission of data right from the field. So we've got two presentations which will be done very, very quickly. The one on routing of enumerators, which improved the access to enumeration areas, also which avoided under coverage and over coverage, but also some on the mapping and listing, which we feel has been quite useful to us. The way we did digital maps. Previously, we would actually have paper maps. So our first presenter, I'll call Stembile. Come on.
Show me if it can.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I'm going to do a demonstration on the census enumeration, specifically on area identification and data collection. So the application that we used for area identification is called Maps With Me. It's an open source software that we usually customize depending on what activities we're carrying out. So we've loaded some sample enumeration areas. So the way the enumerator uses this application is that the first thing they need to do is to identify their current location. So the blue arrow that we're seeing is where I'm standing right now. So this shows my current location. So once the current location is established, They'll then go on and select the enumeration area that they've been assigned. When they tap on their area, it will zoom into that area. The red pin that we're seeing represents the center point of an enumeration area, and the red lines that we're seeing are the enumeration area boundaries. So once they tap on their area and they know where it is, they'll then go on and tap on route to. So this creates for them a predefined route to the enumeration area from, let's say, where they're camping. So the moment I click on route to, it creates a route to the enumeration area from the campsite. It also shows them the time it would take from the camp to the enumeration area, as well as the distance. So an enumerator is able to plan for a day's work. And when they click on start, it will give them 10 by 10 navigation. In that, I mean, it will, let's say, tell them in 100 meters, 10 left or right. And when the destination is reached, it will tell them destination reached. So with this application, chances of enumerators getting lost is actually minimized, because we usually have people participating on a survey for the very first time. Also, this application has also helped us in that, with them knowing the current location at all times and seeing the enumeration area boundaries, chances of overlapping or straying away from the area are also minimized. So the route is also created depending on the mode of transport. So the application shows several modes of transport. So depending on which mode of transport the enumerator is using, let's say right now it's showing car. So if I were to tap on a person walking, the route might change. So unlike previously when we used paper-based questionnaires, paper maps, an enumerator or a supervisor needed to know map reading, but with this application, with them knowing their current location and just tapping by the start button, they're able to get to the enumeration areas. So once they get to their areas, they'll then go to conduct data collection. So the census application contained basic information from the mapping and listing. And these are presented on a map in form of markers. And these are the red and green markers that we're able to see. The census questionnaire contained basic information such as the household size, name of the head of household, locality name, as well as GPS coordinates attached to it. So the red markers are basically, the red and green markers are basically GPS coordinates. So for one to conduct an interview, they'll tap on the marker and it will show them the name of the head of the household. So since mapping was done in 2019 and the census was done this year, let's say if you perhaps find a different head of a household, the enumerator is able to change that to the current head of a household. This application also helps enumerators to monitor their own progress, in that the red markers represent households that have not been enumerated. So once a household is enumerated, the marker turns into green. So the green markers represent households that have been enumerated and the interview is complete. And then we also have the hourglass, which is the orange marker, which is, let's say, maybe they postponed that interview, they didn't complete it, and that is marked by the hourglass. So an enumerator is able to monitor their own progress by just the colors of the markers, and they are also able to filter. Let's say if they just want to see the completed markers, they'll filter by completed, and they'll only see the green markers. So this really helped us a lot in terms of them monitoring their own coverage. Once an enumerator is done collecting data, they were also required, for the purpose of quality control, to send this data via Bluetooth to the supervisor, who then could also run random spot check. Let's say maybe they would select 5 households in that enumeration area, revisit it, and conduct an interview just on selected questions, and then they would then run a report that would show them what the enumerator collected against what the supervisor collected. And if there are any discrepancies, they would send the enumerator back to correct that. Other than that, in instances where, since mapping was done in 2019, in instances where maybe a structure or household was missed, enumerators were able to add, hence leaving no one behind. So they were able to add, for example, I can add a marker there if that household was not listed during the mapping and listing exercise, and hence able to conduct an interview. It's also worth noting that, just like the previous application, this one also works offline. So even in the most remote places, an enumerator is able to collect data. The only point that they need internet is when they need to send this data to HQ. That's the only point that internet would be required. And once that data is sent over the internet to HQ, IT would then download and give it to the Geographic Information Systems Unit, who would then use their software to also plot and monitor coverage before an enumerator is cleared from the field. Thank you.
Is it Frank now?
Yes. Yes.
It's Frank. Yes. We'll also do a short presentation just on the mapping and verification of coverage during the enumeration and at the end of the enumeration before we actually get to the results. So I think you just need to go down.
Good morning. Allow me to write on the protocols established. I'll speak to the census processes in brief. Categorizing the census processes, there are what we call the pre-census activities and the census enumeration itself and the post-enumeration. Activities under the pre-census activities to do with document development for the project, cost estimates, budgeting. You have to prepare the questionnaires, prepare them in digital format. You have also to pre-test and conduct a pilot, which is a trial run. The prominent activities under the pre-census are mainly the pilot and the mapping. So let me just speak to the mapping activity. The mapping involved listing of residential and non-residential buildings. This included commercial buildings, religious buildings, institutions such as schools, health institutions, communication towers, bus stations, and other points of interest. This data was collected and was saved under what we called the geospatial database. How it was done, again, we used the tablets to collect data, and we are tagging buildings by way of using the same gadget, and we would collect basic information for each structure. For example, this one, that point which is pointing to that structure, it's a structure in Kaunda Square. There's address there, there's a building type, which is a residential type. And then we also collected information of the household head and the sex of the household head and how many there are in that household. Like in this case, there are 7 males and females. The main output of the mapping, the e-mapping, electronic mapping and listing, for example, was households. The dots there, the purple dots, are actually representing the households. As we can see, all the corners of Zambia were visited and coordinates were collected. This then informed the basis for demarcating the whole Zambia into what we call enumeration areas. Enumeration areas were demarcated according to some threshold. For urban areas, they were ranging from 150, just hovering around 150. And in rural areas, they were ranging from 180 to 120 households. So the total result of enumeration areas, these are work areas, the counting boundaries was 38,570. This then informed the basis for recruiting the field staff, enumerators, supervisors, and other categories of field managers. It also informed the basis for revising the cost estimates for the census. The demo has already been done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one correction. The number of households number of households in an EA in a rural area was from 80 households to 120 households. In urban areas where it's high density was above 120 to 150 households. Okay, this was done. Let's now come to, I think, the presentation of the results. I think the first slide, basically, we are saying that these results are preliminary, and as the minister indicated, we are going to share on the key results, and within the course of this month and next month, then we'll go into details to share results all the way up to what level. However, what we'll present today, basically, even though we are saying that preliminary, they are as good as final. We don't expect major discrepancies the moment now we've actually churned out the full report. One of the things that helped us during the enumeration, basically to monitor the progress of the census, we did, working with the cooperating partners, UNECA, develop a field data monitoring dashboard. Now, this dashboard, basically, we were able to, let me first look for something, oh no, okay. This dashboard was developed in such a way that anytime, 24 hours, you would actually go to the home page, and that home page will show you what day is it of the 28 days of the enumeration. The enumeration was 28 days. That is 18th August to 14th September. It will also show how many households you've basically enumerated by a particular time that you're looking at the dashboard. It will also show how many institutions that have been visited by the time you're looking at the dashboard. It will also show you an estimate of the population from the households which had already been covered at a particular time. Now, one of the things that which would also come out is the graphs that you see on the right-hand side. Now, that graph, there are two of them. There is a gray one and a blue one. At the back of those blue bars, they are the gray graphs. The gray graphs were the cumulative targets that we needed to attain on a particular day by province. So in the early days of enumeration, you would actually see that the blue bars were lower than the targets. Okay, one reason was that deployment of staff in certain areas delayed, but halfway into enumeration, you actually see most of the rural provinces, if you look at Muchinga, Luapula, and them all, in fact, were progressing above the targets. There were two areas which were consistently behind during enumeration. That is Lusaka province and the Copper Belt. And these are areas generally known as hard to enumerate areas, where for a number of reasons, the various respondents, either you've got no contacts, they are busy. Others, like the minister said, they just feel that they cannot be enumerated. But also you had in certain areas where people, because of the nature of their livelihood, they wake up at 04. They go to do orders, and from orders, they go straight to the markets. And they'll be in the markets up to about 22, 23 hours. We also had cases like Tendere, Kalikiliki, where as we're enumerating, we realized that our performance was quite behind time. After consulting the community leaders, we discovered most of them are bus drivers who wake up very early as well. And they go with their spouses go to get vegetables for sale. And they only come back after about 22 hours. So we had to devise a new system where we'd go on Sunday from about 05 to about 10. After 10, they are out washing their buses and you won't find them. So in those bars now, you could actually drill in. If you see that one of the provinces is really behind, drill in and you've got a bar chart for the districts. And then to try and see which of the districts is pulling back the province. So once you identify the district, then you drill in that district and see which of the constituencies in that district is pulling back the district. Once you're able to identify the constituency which is pulling back the district, you drill down in that constituency up to the wards. Then you'll be able to see certain wards basically are pulling back the constituency. Now in that ward also, the same dashboard, you'll be able to drill in and it will show you bars for all the enumerators who were identified by cluster numbers. And then you'll be able to see that this enumerator in Luano, in this ward, has not been transmitting any data. Then you will send information to the regional authorities, the district census officers, to find out why that is the case. So the first few days, this is how the map of Zambia was. We basically had three colors. One, red color, amber, which is orange, like traffic lights, and then green. Now, these colors basically tells you that we were operating below 90% of our daily cumulative targets, and this was very normal. And this was not a drawing, it was computer generated out of the data being sent from the field. Halfway into the enumeration area, the map of Zambia changed. So you see, you've got the greens, provinces there, and this is a real chart. I can't remember the dates. We're able to tell that Northern Province, you see the Copper Belt, Central, Lusaka, and others, they were actually doing well. So where do we have a challenge? Is where we've got a red colors, meaning that we're doing less than 90% of the targets. And then the orange ones, these basically had moved out of the red. And our job now was to turn the orange ones into green. And then turn the red ones into orange, then green. So we were able to see this every morning. We'll sit with staff, we start analyzing. Around lunch hour, again, we'll do the same. And in the evenings, we'll do the same. And we'll send information to the respective provinces to find out why they were lagging behind. So on 20th September, a day before, the last day of the mop-up, the entire country was turned into green. And this is what the minister referred to when he spoke about universal coverage. The data from the field turned the entire country into green by just submitting. So that's how we're able to tell that we've actually hit at least a target. Now, universal coverage does not necessarily mean that all households were covered, but all enumeration areas were covered. Okay, that is what our dashboard was doing. We didn't have strong internet. We could actually have gone into the main dashboard. Let's now come to the results. 1969, we had 4.1 million. 1980, 5.7 million. 1990, 7.4 million. 2000, 9.9 million. 2010, 13.1 million. The next is a question mark. Some of you can guess. With the exception of the high table. Okay, so that's the question. What was the count for 2022 census of population and housing? The 2022 census of population and housing, the total count was 19,610,769, with the females at 10,007,713 and males at 9,603,056. And you'll actually see the distribution according to urban and rural. Rural, we have 11.8 million, and urban, 7.8 million. Males, this is it's basically here. So that is the population for 2022. Now, we did also look around. There were projections which were made by the USA Census Bureau, and their projection for 2022 was at 19.5 million. The United Statistics Division projection was at 20 million, and our actual count is just somewhere at 19.6 million. This is basically meant to try and see how well our count was by comparing with, for example, US Census Bureau is quite advanced in terms of this subject, and then also the UN, which is an authority. Okay, I think we've done this. In terms of the growth rates, what the calculation average annual growth rate was at 3.4 between 2010 and 2022, compared to 2.8 between 2000 and 2010. If you just do 10 years, which we don't want to do, it will give you about 3.2 or so. Now, this is a disaggregation by province. We've got the highest population in Lusaka, slightly over 3 million, the growth of 40.6%, followed by the Copper Belt, slightly around 2.7, and the least is coming from Chinga, which is at 918,296, a growth of 51.1%. You see the highest growth rate coming from Northwestern Province, at 24.7%. I'd want to leave that to analysts to guess. to add some one or two explanations. And then the least growth rate is coming from the Copper Belt province at 9.8%. You can actually see that the developments in Northwestern province and the Copper Belt slightly like competing and slightly on opposite sides. In much of this Northwestern province, you see a notable growth rate, I should mention, in Kalumbila, notable growth rates in Solwezi because of the mining activities. Okay, this is basically disaggregating the data by rural and urban. This is the number of households. In 2022, our estimated households was 4,056,605, compared to slightly above 2.5 in 2010. And the rural population was estimated at 2.4 million, compared to about 1.5 million in 2010. And urban areas about 1.7 compared to 1 million in 2010. This is basically the average household size. You actually see the average household size on it's 4.8. The household sizes in rural areas are higher, about average of five people per household. In urban areas, they're lower, which is more or less like a common trend in urban areas. This is basically just a breakdown of households. Of course, Lusaka having more, above 600,000, and the least is in Muchinga at above 195,000 households. This is just a map of showing the average household size. I've talked about it up there. The biggest, of course, is Northwestern province at 5.3, and the least is 4.7, Copper Belt and Western and Muchinga. No. Least is 4.5. That is for Lusaka. Again, this is just a trend in terms of average household size, the way it's been changing. Population density. The highest population density is in Lusaka at 140.1 persons per square kilometer, and that is a policy issue. It has implications on provision of services, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And of course, the next one is the Copper Belt. Now, let me just move to where we've got a comparison. I hope I've got it here. Okay. So in 2010, Lusaka had an estimated 100.1 persons per square meter, per square kilometer, and that has gone up to 140. That's about 40% increase. And Northwestern province has moved to 10.1 persons per square kilometer from 5.8. That is double. It's 100%. It talks to the high increase in the population in some of those towns that we basically mentioned. Like the minister did indicate that today's presentation was to share the key highlights, and then after this we'll have a number of meetings with several stakeholders, research institutions, health, ECZ, to try and see which reports we could actually prioritize. And some of these reports will be the National Analytical Report, provincial analytical reports, national and provincial descriptive tables, population projections, census atlas, sub-national analytical reports. Special thematic reports, orphanhood, activity limitation, migration and urbanization, refugees, stateless persons, household and housing characteristics, and any other required reports that the stakeholders would want. So total population 19.6 from million, from 13. I thank you.
At this point in time, we invite the Honorable Minister to come and receive a copy of the report from the Interim Statistician General. Thank you.
Good morning once more. Honorable Minister mentioned that we would have a mobile application, which is the Census Executive Monitor. So this mobile application will be available on Play Store, so everyone can actually download it. So it's only on Android for now. So the mobile app will only have key indicators on the census application.
It's coming.
And these can be viewed either in table forms or charts.
I didn't explain.
Okay. So the mobile app will be downloadable on Play Store for Android version only for now. So this mobile application will have key indicators on the census, and these can be viewed in table format or charts. And as we do more data cleaning, more results will be reviewed. So for now, we only have what was presented earlier, which is a national and by rural, urban, as well as the districts. So you have a home page, which basically shows the total population there by rural, urban, average rate of population growth, and it goes down to just the population numbers where you can now view by districts, as well as housing indicators. Thank you. Yes, I can.
We'll arrange that.
So how will people access this application? I think if the Honorable Minister is in Liwa in his constituents, how does he access this application? Our stakeholders from the USAID, UNECA, UNFPA, they have other stakeholders outside the country. How do they access the application?
So the application is available for those that have smartphones on Play Store. Just like the way you download WhatsApp or Facebook, you're able to download the Executive Monitor.
I want to once again thank the Statistical Agency and all the support that came through and all the experts that participated in this to bring us to this stage. I believe this is just the beginning, and with the time, we should be able to get access to all the data, the answers to the questions that were asked. We can all view that with the time as data becomes consolidated. So once again, thank you so much. I have to leave for the next event. Thank you so much, and I wish you a good day.